What is up, y'all? My name is Will, and this is nearly episode 600. We're getting close, but the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, and sponsored by us here at Schedulefly. Super simple, web-based restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service. Y'all, if you're listening and you're on paper or Excel and scheduling headaches and call outs and all this kind of stuff are an issue for you, give us a shot. 30-day free trial at schedulefly.com. My personal cell phone number is right there on the site. You can call me. I'm happy to rap with you about what's going on. Also, if you're on a different scheduling software provider, it means that they are venture capital backed or they're private equity owned. Their prices are probably keep going up and their service might keep going down. So if you want a simple solution with great service, give us a shot. We're at schedulefly.com. Appreciate y'all checking us out. Appreciate y'all listening. And y'all, this is a really cool opportunity today because I was just telling Dana for the first time, we have an opportunity to share the story of somebody that is opening her first place. And so is in that process. And so we get to learn why she's decided to do this, what's been going on, what the backstory is, what led to this, what she's working on now. And the goal will be, of course, to have her back on in a few months after she's gotten open and talk about what's going on. And this is a great opportunity because so many of y'all that listen to this podcast are thinking about, hey, I want to open my first place one day. And you're listening to people that have done it. Well, here's somebody that's in the same place of like, I'm going to do it. And there's a lot that comes with that. So Dana, thank you. If you wouldn't mind, just introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. So my name is Dana Monfort. I live in Denver, Colorado, and I'm opening a new concept. It's kind of a dual concept in the Cherry Creek North neighborhood that's just right outside of downtown. And it's a New York style bodega in conjunction with a kind of premium fast casual restaurant. And we're in a really cool location that it's actually three separate spaces all within the same building and then a courtyard combining everything. So we have a really popular and prominent ice cream group called Little Man Ice Cream. If you're listening in from Denver, you're familiar, but they have, I believe, 11 locations now. And yeah, they're amazing ice cream. So they're actually subleasing from us and just, all three concepts really flow really well together. And we're super excited about it.
When do you plan to open?
We're shooting for August. We've had, of course, the classic construction delays, but being for August.
Okay. So we were connected by a customer of ours, a longtime customer of ours, and with the Culinary Creative Group out there, which is an incredible brand and a great group of people. Why are you doing this, Dan? What's your backstory? What have you been doing up until now? And what got you to decide to take this opportunity?
So it's honestly very random. I feel like I've had like 9 lives at this point because I've done so many random things, and people are always like, oh, yeah, the natural progression from. So I actually started in the medical field. I went to college. My undergrad was essentially physiology, and I wanted to go into cardiology. I grew up with a heart condition that then kind of just triggered my interest in cardiology. And I've always been very intrigued by the medical field. I grew up kind of with a really close bond with one of my grandparents, and she had a couple strokes. And so I was always, very involved in helping her and cooking with her and kind of just going to her speech therapy sessions and just like being very involved in that. And it always really I had a strong interest in the medical field, still do, and I love it, but there's just so much that goes into it. So did all my undergrad with the vision of actually becoming a cardiothoracic surgical PA. And I wanted to be in the depths, in the OR, in open heart surgery, did all my internships in cardiology. I actually was lucky enough to get to do some of my internships with the doctors that did surgery on me. And it was absolutely amazing. I'm so, so thankful for those times. But then my dad one day sat me down and just was like, if you are going to go into this field, I will absolutely support you. I'll support whatever you want to do. My parents have always been, pretty supportive, but he was like, you're going to be in school until you're 35. Then you have to do residency, especially if you want to go into surgery. There's just so much that goes into that. And I have the utmost respect for people that do it, because it really is like, it's your entire life, and you have to be so dedicated. And he was like, I think with your personality and your love for, talking to people and kind of being like salesy and loving a little competition, you should look into real estate, whether it's residential or commercial. He comes from, my dad owned moving and storage companies throughout Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. And so I kind of grew up in that background around like, warehouses and trucks. And that was like all my summer jobs, was working on those trucks and being in the warehouses. And he owns all of the real estate. So he was like, obviously coming from this experience, you should look into it. And so kind of did my research. I knew that I didn't want to do residential. That's just like not my personality in the least. And so I kind of started in residential with a group that I got connected with, that they were more on the development side. And I was young. I was like, gosh, 21, 22, maybe 23 at this point. And I'm like, I'm just some young, like blonde chick. Like, who's going to take me seriously in the commercial world? So I knew that I kind of had to get my feet wet, really like start from the bottom and work my way up. So started working with this group that focused more on development, learned a lot from them. They were awesome, got connected with a lot of developers, and then just slowly but surely made my way into the commercial world. I was always really good at just, making connections with people. I've always known that it really is, as cheesy as it sounds, it's more about the people that
Yeah.
versus what you know. And that was really ingrained in my head from a young age. So just took advantage of that. And I would, reach out to people every single day to try and get a meeting set up, or, a phone call, or just shadowing people, like whatever it may be. Cause I was like, I just need to learn as much as I possibly can, as quickly as I can. And so, yeah, I did residential for a little bit. I was terrible at it. Like, I think I sold maybe one house, and it was like my neighbor that I befriended. And he was like, hey, you can sell my house. And I literally put the sign on the wrong side of the fence, so you couldn't even see my sign when it was hanging up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I hate this, I'm so bad at it. But yeah, so then just met with a lot of people in the commercial world, ended up working with a broker at Newmark Knight Frank, and she was a big land broker. She was amazing. Again, learned a ton from her, but I knew that land wasn't really what I wanted to focus on. And I wanted something that was a little bit more niche, it just had some more character. And my dad, I guess both my parents have always been like, you need to get into something that's, the least glamorous as possible. Those are the industries and the asset classes that withstand the test of time. So I always just had that in the back of my head. And I always had so much interest in that versus like the more glamorous side of things. And so I actually was working with people in the self-storage world, senior housing, which I still have a lot of interest in. And then I had a friend that was like, hey, I have a buddy that does mobile home parks. He owns and operates mobile home parks, and they're just an amazing, very niche kind of, underrated asset class. And again, this was like 9 or so years ago. So it was
Hmm.
really before it blew up. That industry now is huge. Like everybody knows about it. Everybody and their mom owns a park, or, knows somebody that owns a park. So again, just did a lot of research into that industry. And I started just paying so much attention, like driving around and just really noticing any mobile home park that I would drive by, like driving up to the mountains. There's a lot, on I-70 in Colorado. And then even just driving around Denver. And I was like, holy crap, there's a ton of these things. And like, it just made sense to me. It was something that was like tangible, concrete, that I was like, this makes so much sense and it's so interesting. And I'm sure the people in this industry are going to be awesome. So I just kind of put my head down. I actually got like essentially laid off from my brokerage job. It was a little bit of a mutual agreement, but it was like she kind of just understood that I wasn't really into, what she was doing. And I think that she wanted me to be more of like an associate and I wanted to do so much more. Um, and so that obviously was like a pretty low time because I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, what the heck am I going to do? And I remember that day I left the office and I just was like, all right, I have to figure this out. And I literally started cold calling and Googling owners of mobile home parks. I had a sheet that I had printed off from Newmark of all the mobile home park owners and any park within Colorado. And so I was like cold calling before I even knew what cold calling was. Literally Googling people like mobile home park owners, going on LinkedIn, just typing in mobile home park owners, mobile home park, brokers, anybody that I could get in touch with. Ended up calling this guy, Brian McDonald, shout out. He's one of my still really good friends, and called him. And I was like, hey, I see that you're in the park business. Like, I've been cold calling on parks and I actually found this park in Denver that this guy wants to sell. Like, would you have any interest in meeting with me and kind of just teaching me the ropes of the industry? And just, I'm really trying to get to know as many people as I can and learn as much as I can in this industry. And he was like, yeah, totally. When do you want to meet? And I was like, tomorrow, if you can. Literally drove up and we met him at like Cafe Mexicali or some random place up north. And we just immediately bonded and started working together. And this park that I had cold called on, that this guy gave me like the slightest, inkling that he was interested in selling. Kind of did the same thing with him. I immediately was like, can I come up and meet with you? He showed me around the park. And I remember I was literally wearing these loafers, like slides, and the park was disgusting. Like, it was not in good shape. It needed a lot of work. And I was just like stepping through the park. He took me into this like back office bathroom place where somebody was living, and my feet were, I was like, this is so gross, but I don't even care because I'm just so interested. Like, this is the best thing ever. And yeah, so I was obsessed. And then so started working with Brian. He then connected me with the group that I actually work with now, which is Yale Advisors. So we sell mobile home parks and RV parks. We're a nationwide brokerage, and I've been with them since 2018, and essentially begged them for the job. I was like, look, I know that I don't have any, background or history experience in this industry, and I still am pretty young, all things considered within commercial real estate, but like, I will bust my ass. I'm a hard worker. I want to learn this industry and I want to be here. Like, just give me a year, even 6 months, and let me just prove myself. And they're like, okay, whatever. It's like a group of, a bunch of guys, and they brought me on. And yeah, I've been with them ever since, and it's been an amazing position. I absolutely love those guys. They're like my family. I love the industry, and they've just been so good to me. Like, I cherish them so much. But I kind of always knew that with brokerage, I wanted that to be not a stepping stone, but something where I can really get my feet wet, learn a ton, be able to kind of be a shark. Like, I love that competition. I love the craziness of a deal. I honestly just love a deal. And so it really gives me, the pathway to kind of have all of that. But I also was like, I want to have something on the side, whether it's honestly owning my own park or owning, some sort of just anything that's my own project that I can bring to life and I can take care of and bring to fruition. And I love problem solving, and I love a challenge, and I love just like high intensity situations. And so I knew, I wanted to be extremely successful in brokerage and then kind of take my successes and implement that into a project. So with the bodega and the restaurant, it is so random for me. always said like I will never get into the restaurant industry like that. I will never touch that with a 10-foot pole. I'm a big foodie. I love, all that stuff, but I just knew everything that came with it. And it just was something that didn't really trigger my interest. But I also think it's really important to get into something where there's a void and not even like reinventing the wheel, but just seeing where a void is and filling that void and just making it really awesome. So the name of the project is Town Pump. So it's Town Pump Bodega and then Town Pump Eatery. And the overarching name is Town Pump Provisions. So with this, I have lived in this area in Cherry Creek for a couple years now. And it's such a cute, walkable area, walkable neighborhood, lots of housing, lots of office space, other, retail, other restaurants. Like it's kind of like a little West Village, if you will, of Denver. Not as cool as the real West Village in, in New York, but just a, very similar cozy atmosphere. And so I've always been like, why do we not have something that's like a true New York style corner bodega that it's like everybody pops in there, they really add it into their daily routine. It can help fill a void that they're looking for. And, there's nowhere in this area where you can go and just get like a quick Advil and, a sparkling water and a Band-Aid. Like I picture just those really simple things, but then we'll have awesome elements of kind of like essentials plus some. And yeah, so I, throughout the years have just seen this void and I realized that it was such a need in this area. Same thing with the fast casual restaurant. There's really not a lot of fast casual around here that's like truly chef curated and thought out. And so found this space. I had this idea and then I reached out to Juan with CCG a couple years ago and I was like, hey, I have this idea. If I help you to bring this to fruition, like, will you partner with me and help me execute it because I don't have any experience in this industry? He was like, yeah, totally. We've actually wanted to get into markets. We have a lot going on, but we'll help you and we'll get this figured out.
Was this Juan Pedro?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Juan
Yeah.
Pedro.
How
Yeah.
did you know Juan?
Just through mutual friends, and then I went on a kind of leadership trip to Mexico City, and we bonded a little bit there. And then I guess it was essentially after that trip that I reached out to him with this idea. Mm. So yeah, I mean, he was like, I'm totally on board. Like, you just let me know what I can do to help. I think he probably didn't expect me to really do anything with it. And then I just immediately was like, okay, cool, let's go look at real estate. I have a friend who specializes in real estate in Cherry Creek. So he helped me find locations, found this space that it's absolutely amazing. It's like the coziest little neighborhood spot that needs a lot of work, but it's been kind of a staple in Cherry Creek for a while. And we could have gone into some of these, really amazing new buildings. But I was like, this to me feels like it needs to be in a space that's like really cozy, feels like a second home, and just has a lot of character. Juan was like, we definitely can, but you're going to pay a lot of money. This is going to be a heavy lift. This is going to be a big project. And he was really urging me to go in the other direction. But I was like, we have to do this. Like, we just absolutely have to. And I think he quickly learned that, like, once I get my mind set on something, like it's happening. Um, so yeah, we're renovating this building and it's been like a year and a half that we've been working on the construction. I had that conversation with Juan and then literally got married, went on my honeymoon, came back. The day I got back from my honeymoon, I reached out to my friend in real estate and I was like, all right, find me a building, like, let's do this. And then signed the lease a couple months later. And here we are. Yeah.
Well, you've got yourself certainly connected with a great group. CCG is, I have the utmost respect for them.
Amazing.
They are absolutely amazing. So Denver's lucky to have them there. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about you signed this lease. So are you doing this through are you borrowing money? Are you raising equity? Self-finance,
Yeah.
partner?
Yeah, so I'm putting some of my own money in. So I'm kind of like parlaying my successes from brokerage and putting it into this project. And then I also have brought on a couple partners. We'll probably have 3 to 4 total partners at the end of the day. And that's essentially just for the construction build out. I was able to negotiate a pretty good deal with the landlord to get some rent abatement because it's been, it's been a long process and it definitely is a heavy lift to get this building where it needs to be. So, yeah, it's really just for the construction build out and then we have a pretty good lease rate all things considered for that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and okay, so how does CCG play a role in this process?
So they're essentially our management partner.
Okay.
So they're not equity or really, a true partner at this stage. What we decided is going to work best is for me to kind of run the thing and then bring them in, pay them a management fee and they'll come in and bring their expertise with like employees and training and hiring and kind of just helping out with the overarching, operations. And then I also have another partner who she's our strategic partner, and her name is Allison McKinley slash Allison Rifkin. So she owns Green Collective, and it's a really successful, awesome, fast casual restaurant here in Denver. She has 2 locations right now. She'll hopefully be expanding because it's amazing. So she's bringing her expertise for the, fast casual side of things. And we also are just good friends, and she's absolutely amazing. She's a freaking wizard with this stuff. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Well, okay. There's a couple of things you said that I think are so interesting. One is the idea of, and what got you started down the path of mobile home parks and RV parks is I guess this must have been something that your dad knew well with just like moving and storage, which is the quote
Mhm.
non-sexy bit. People
Yeah.
are attracted to the shiny stuff, but
Yeah.
that oftentimes the businesses that are like really lucrative and profitable are just, the basic things that don't get on the news or on the cover of
Yeah.
magazines or on the cover of Entrepreneur or, oh, they
Yeah.
scaled up and went from, 1 million to 100 million in, 8 weeks because of this coding. But it's like the
Yeah.
meat and potatoes of industry, which is to your point, have been around and will be around. And if you're willing to check your ego and just, I mean, this is why, there's so much interest in mobile home parks now and things like that. Doesn't seem sexy, but it's a consistent annuity, and if done right and run well, can be very, very profitable as a business. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's something that no matter the economy, no matter what stage of life people are in, people will always need housing and they will always make it work. Like it's honestly been such an amazing way to see like how resilient people are because they're like, we are going to do whatever we need to do to, put a roof over our family's head. And obviously, I was in the industry through COVID, and COVID was actually a really good time for our industry. And it was just really eye opening to see how hard people do work to, keep their families housed and keep things running. And, they cut back on so many other things, but they're like, I'm going to take care of my family. And yeah, it was amazing. And the industry as a whole just really came together. And there's obviously always some bad press out there because that's what people are going to make press about. Um, about kind of the bad eggs in the industry, which there are a couple, but for the most part, it's just amazing, down to earth, good people in the industry. And that's like, to be honest, my favorite thing about it at the end of the day. I've met so many incredible people, and it's just, they're all so inspiring. So, yeah, it does. It keeps you humbled because it's like, you could be a big apartment owner that I think that industry is a lot more competitive in a way because everybody's trying to like build the prettiest building and build, the tallest skyscraper. And in mobile home parks, it's like, no, we're just building, housing for people. So you can't really brag. And if you do, then you're like immediately exiled. So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, uh, as you're sitting there telling this story leading up to this, I'm sitting here thinking, Nat, like, why aren't you out buying mobile home parks? Because
I know.
say that because I want to ask you about this because you are getting into a space that maybe people cut back when the economy
Yeah.
or things happen. Like I don't stay completely in tune with what's happening in Denver, but I know a lot of the owners out there and I hear like there's been crime and there's been this and then there's new labor
Yeah.
laws and all that. So you're
Yeah.
getting like here's what I'll say about the world you're getting into. We've been doing this for 18 years at Schedule Fly. I've been doing this podcast for, I mean, really, truly 15 years maybe because we were
600 episodes. That's amazing.
yeah, well, listen, when I started the podcast, I had to beg people to come on because nobody even knew what a podcast was.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did our first, we self-published a book in 2010, which means I was working on it in 2009, and it was interviews with restaurant owners. And one of those was Dave
Yeah.
Query of Big Red F out there. And,
Mhm.
you know, uh, what I've learned about this world that you're entering is something you just said a minute ago, which I would completely agree with in the world of sort of hospitality, particularly independent hospitality. It's some of the best people you'll ever come across. It is a group of people collectively that gives a lot of heart and a lot of passion, a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of care to their employees, to their
Mhm.
customers, to their communities. It is a hard business. It is also a very rewarding business. People
Yeah.
that do it, love it. It's also not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of people that think, well, I'm a really good cook, I'll open a restaurant, but like that's like 1/10 of 1% of what it takes. There's so many, every aspect of the economy flows through this.
Mhm.
But if you care deeply about people and you care deeply about community, it's a great place to be because you're doing it for more than just a quick buck. I mean, no,
Right.
you're not, I mean, you can scale up a concept and get rich and all that kind of stuff, and some do, but I mean, most people that are in this space, this world are doing it for more than that because they care deeply about the people around them and the community that they're in, and but it, as you probably are already learning, you've already said construction delays and things like that. Like every single day, there's either a real fire or a metaphorical fire that you have to put out.
Right.
It could be involving people, equipment. Like I remember, I'll never forget Ramey Rostello, who owned Comida out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget. She opened like at one point she had 3 locations, and she opened one, and then like not long after they opened, they literally closed down the entire street because of some construction project, some big, it just like destroyed her traffic. And it's like stuff you can't
Yeah.
even plan for. So I bring that back to I'm excited for you. I think what you're doing is amazing. And then you've got yourself surrounded with some really good people. But it is, boy, it seems sexy, but it's not.
No, it's not. And I mean, that's kind of been the whole thing that I have been able to bring from my experience in the park business and really implement it into this because I am not a diehard, restaurateur like, "Oh, this is my dream, so I'm just gonna find a random place and make it work." I'm like, I have been so intentional about where is the void? How can I fill that void? How can I be realistic about it and not just like open something willy-nilly just because I want to have a project, but like really putting so much thought into this. And I mean, the bodega itself is a huge void that there's nothing like it in Cherry Creek. And that has been something that I really did think about is like, okay, if the economy shuts down, if, something like COVID, God forbid, happens again, is this something that people will still need, that people will still want to do and feel safe doing? And I keep going back to Ellison actually was like the good thing about art with some of our location I guess her first location is she was like, we don't need butts and seats for it to be successful, and that's exactly what this space is. We don't have seating. I mean, we have some really awesome outdoor seating in the courtyard that we're going to activate. But we don't have a wait staff. We really don't need people to be coming and sitting down and, congregating for it to make sense. It's like this is something that no matter what, again, no matter the economy, people will need to run in, grab their Advil, grab their essentials, grab their, toilet paper, and then get an awesome new brand of, gluten-free crackers or chips or whatever. And be on their way. But why not make that experience awesome and enjoyable and something that is a part of their daily routine, but turn it into like more of a hobby. And even with the fast casual restaurant, we're being really intentional about the menu. And I wanted to have that true restaurant feel, make it all takeaway. The same flavors, the same clean ingredients that you would get at like a true food that we have out here. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but but make it all takeaway and make it like a 10-minute process to run in and grab everything and head out. And like people still need that and they still want that little spark of joy throughout their day that again it's like they're going to search for that no matter what. And I would say even more so in a situation like COVID where you're just stuck in your house and you know you want to go out and do something enjoyable even if it is a quick 10-minute process. And we're going to be really intentional about our pricing as well because I think it's so easy to go into an area like Cherry Creek that it is a little bit, it's, I guess, essentially the high end market of Denver. I think it would be so easy to just assume, like, oh, yeah, we can price things astronomically because people will just expect it. And, like, yes, we have to make up for the amount of money that we're dumping into this construction and our rent and everything. But I want it to be very approachable for every walk of life. Like, I don't want somebody to look at it and say like, oh, I can't go in there because it's too fancy or it's too expensive. Like I want people to really feel a strong draw and sense of community and sense of comfort going in there, no matter the situation. So that's kind of how I'm taking my experience with the, if you want to call it like recession proof industries, and just saying like, how can we truly implement that in the same way, but, give it a little spice and a little way to spark joys in everybody's day.
Well, sparking joy is it. I mean, so much of what you're talking about is, I mean, it's location, it's product,
Yeah.
things like that. But I think you're tapping into something that's just so potent, which is when you say sparking joy, because you're talking about building something that the community will embrace as their own. There's so much about the hospitality business that is just building relationships with people so that they come back
Yeah.
again and again and again, so they become your
Yeah.
regular, right? You can do all things to get people to come in. I'll never forget this. And you mentioned New York. So I gather you've been there a few times,
Yeah.
the area. There was the guys at so God, this was 12 years ago, I think 10 or 12 years ago. But the guys at the meatball shop there in New York, they had a location. These guys were childhood friends. They started this place called the Meatball Shop in Brooklyn. It was a huge hit.
So
Yeah, and they got like, but they got PR agent. They were on like an Amex commercial. They went from one location to six locations really quickly. But what ended up happening is they wound up, the partnership ended up like kind of coming apart after a while because there was like, do we grow or do we operate? And one of the guys said to me, he's like, look, PR is great. Like you can pay to do things to get people to come in your doors,
yeah.
which is like having them come in once is not relevant. Having them come in again and again and
Yeah.
again is, and that's where that spark of joy, where they go, you know what? Like, I mean, I live here in Waxhaw, North Carolina. We're just south of, we'll just call it Charlotte,
Okay.
right? Like basically part of
Yeah.
Charlotte. Waxhaw was its own little town, and there's a place called Provisions Waxhaw, and it's a local place. I can't get it anywhere else. It's very much similar to what you're talking about.
Mm.
I just want to go there because they have like local products and because they know me. Like, and I go
Yeah.
in there, what's up? And like that's that spark of joy, just the acknowledgement, like,
Yeah.
hey, there's Will or whatever, and I feel like I'm a regular there. I feel like I'm a part of that story and a part of that community, and that it
Yeah.
matters. And so maybe
It
there's a
totally
place
matters.
the same products for cheaper or whatever that's nearby, but it's a chain or it's like, whatever. And I'm like, Like, I'd rather go to a place where like they know me. And I think that's becoming
Yeah.
people are recognizing that even more now, Dana, because we spend so much time on these screens and we've like lost the human touch that is
Yeah.
relevant and so needed. And people are
Oh
starting to
my gosh, it's
recognize
so
that
needed.
more than ever. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, a lot of people are working from home or, I think there's an element of, yeah, exactly that. They're stuck on their screens. And it's like, what is an easy way to just get people out and about and still, create that community feel that isn't too much. You don't have to go sit down at a bar. You don't have to go sit down at a restaurant, but you can still just get out and about for a quick 30-minute escape. And I keep saying like it's a way to romanticize the mundane and romanticize your every day. And, some of these things are like true tasks that you have to complete. Like, okay, go run your errands and get your toilet paper and your, Advil and snacks and whatever. But then at the same time, just make it really freaking awesome. And I think that that's it's so easy to do that. And I am a big fan of just making tiny little things really awesome and just appreciating, as freaking lame as it sounds, like appreciating the small things in life, because I
Mhm.
think all those add up to true joy. Like you can, go to this big extravagant vacation, but then you always come back. And so how are you going to make your just daily mundane tasks still really enjoyable? And we're going to make it a space that is really design forward. I'm big on design and all the senses and elements. Like I want it to smell good, I want it to look nice, I want it to we'll have nice music playing and just all of those things. It's so easy to do and it matters so much, and it's like you might not think about it on a deeper level until you look back and you're like, wow, that was so nice that, that person greeted me, or that it like smelled so good in there, or that they had good music playing. Like those are all really big things to me. And I think that it can go really south really fast with that. Like if you go in somewhere and they're playing weird music, you're kind of like, well, that wasn't very enjoyable.
Yeah, for
As,
sure.
simple as it sounds, but um
Well, okay, so you're opening, you think in August.
mhm.
Is what are the main challenges you have right now that y'all got to overcome, other than like the construction delays and everything? Like, what's on your mind on a daily basis right now?
Um, I would say just being intentional about all of our inventory and making sure that the process is as seamless and efficient for every customer that comes in. So making sure that our inventory is really in line with what people are looking for and that we have what people are looking for, that we don't, run out and it's a really small space. So we're having to be extremely diligent about the products that we do carry, and just creating that balance of, items that people really do need, but also where can we bring in fun elements of items that they didn't even know that they needed. And they're like, wow, this is now, a part of my pantry from here on out. So that's a pretty big thing to me that I want to be intentional about. And then also just kind of back to making sure that the systems are in place for a really enjoyable experience. I don't want people to walk in and like have that kind of deer in the headlights, like where do I stand? Where do I go? Where does the line start? Have I paid? Did they get my order? So we have actually, it's a small space. So the restaurant itself is only about 700 square feet. And we actually have two points of ordering areas so that right when you walk in, you're immediately greeted. You know that you're kind of taken care of. They can answer any questions about your order. And then you walk down a line and you have that sense of comfort of like, okay, they have my order. I'm not going to get to the front of the line and pay and still be like, okay, am I taken care of? How much longer am I going to wait? So that's a challenge that we are working through right now, that it's not necessarily a challenge, just something that we're like, okay, we're really going to have to nail this. But outside of that, I mean, all of these challenges that have come up, I have just taken with a grain of salt and I actually appreciate because to me, a challenge means that I'm actually doing something. Like if I wasn't doing anything, I wouldn't have any challenges. And that sounds horrible. So even with the construction delays or, dealing with the grease trap or all these random things that have come up, it's like, at least I have these challenges to overcome. So it hasn't been horrible.
Well, you've got the mindset piece figured out. That's a huge part of this
Yeah.
is the perspective you take on the challenges
Right.
and embracing those and welcoming those as growth opportunities that's a huge piece of this, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So are you going to do this full time? I mean, are you going to continue to do the work you're doing, or is this going to
Yeah.
like you're going to eventually just this is it?
So that is sort of what I'm figuring out. And I think once I'm in the, really in the trenches with everything, I'll have a better idea on what direction I want to go in. But my thought is to continue doing both. I love the brokerage world and I love the park business, as I've obviously mentioned 100 times. So whether it's staying with my current company or buying parks of my own, or getting into even, another asset class that kind of has that cool, like nuanced niche feel to it. And then with Town Pump, my vision is to grow it to other locations, but with a huge asterisk because I want to be extremely intentional about not growing too quickly and not getting, too large to the point where it's just out of control and it removes that like true down home community feel. My idea is if I were to grow it, and hopefully when I grow it, I actually would use different names for each locations. I think that this name fits really well for this location, but I would want the other locations to have a different feel that fits really well to that specific area. I think some chains obviously are highly successful being chains, but I think for something like this, it needs to have that like real neighborhood specialty feel, hopefully other locations. But yeah, for the time being, I'm hoping that I can just juggle both. And luckily, I do have really good people in place to, help with these operations. And my idea with Town Pump for my position is to be at the front of the helm for more so like the visionary things and just staying relevant, keeping up with trends, making sure that, we're providing that service to the community that everybody's looking for. And then hopefully, I'm a big visionary person and a big dreamer. So hopefully now having this space to take all my dreams and, bring them to life. So that's something that I am really excited about. But we'll see.
You have somebody on your team there that's gonna I mean, I can relate to this. So you've got vision and you've got dreams, and then there's like the person who says, okay, so we want to do this many things. Right now we can execute on these, and these are the ones, and then you go and figure out like how do we actually implement this? Yeah, I'm assuming
Yeah.
good partner that balances that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely do. So CCG has been a big part of that. Kevin Eddy is kind of my like right hand man, and he's absolutely incredible. I always say that he's the man behind the curtain because he just like really is the person that's making everything happen there. Juan is absolutely incredible and um definitely the visionary with everything as well. But yeah, Kevin has been a big help with that and definitely somebody that I can go to and say, like, hey, I have this idea. How can we implement this? Or is it even a good idea for this specific operation? Same with Allison. We're both kind of big dreamers together. And so she's been really great at helping me to bring things to life and yeah, sometimes bringing me back down to earth and being like, you don't want to do that here. But yeah, yeah, I think I've built a good team and I am the first person to understand things that, my blind spots and where they are and understand understanding that it's more important to, instead of trying to, do something that like realistically, if I tried to do it, I might fail. And this is a situation where I really can't fail because there's so many people heavily relying on it, filling those blind spots with people who know how to implement and how to execute on this vision. Um, and, hopefully in the future, I can end up really doing it on my own. But I think it's so fun to have a team. I think it's like that's what this is all about. And I could totally do it all on my own and say, like, I want to make all this money back, super quickly. But realistically, I care so much more about the process and the culture and, making it awesome for everyone. So,
Do you read or listen to a lot of podcasts on leadership?
yeah.
You have a lot of you're articulating a lot of really good, strong leadership skills. I'm curious.
Thank you.
Yeah, is that? I'm sure a lot of that's natural, and maybe a lot of that's learning from your folks and everything. But I'm
Yeah.
curious how you spend your time absorbing information and where you do that.
That's so sweet. Yeah, a lot of it came sort of just inherently from my parents. My dad, being an entrepreneur has instilled a lot of those things into me. And just his biggest thing is like, there's two types of people in this world, givers and takers.
Mm.
And obviously, you want to be a giver. Um, and just kind of always coming back to humility and not ever thinking that like your shit don't stink, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, just understanding like how important people are in this world to making something successful. And I'm such a big, big people person. I get so much energy from other people. And like, I just appreciate everybody around me so much. And I think that that's a very important just way to look at life is like these people aren't doing this just to do it. Like they're helping me. And I just have been so grateful knowing that I have people that want to help me and that like see this vision and they think it's a good idea. And I'm like, wow, I'm just so freaking grateful that I have them. But yeah, so I would say my parents and I don't know, kind of just throughout life, but I also one of my absolute favorite things to do is just go on a long walk and listen to a podcast. So before I started this, I would listen to hours and hours and hours of podcasts about people who started kind of like more underdog stories, but really just any success stories. Like matter the size and Guy Raz How I Built This. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of that, but that is like my go-to podcast. I think he asks the most amazing questions and he's really diligent about how he leads that podcast. And it's not just like, let's have this guy on here who started United. Let's be intentional about starting from the beginning, getting into the details because I think things like that are I mean, they're so important. And I've taken a lot of things away from listening to those podcasts, listening to like the Steve Madden story. I absolutely love Jimmy John's I love all these stories about people that are, again, kind of like the underdog and how they just push their way through life to be successful. Cause I wasn't like, a star student or I think my parents, when I was younger, were a little worried about what direction I was going to go in because I just had so much energy and wasn't really good at school. So, but yeah, I've taken a lot away from, reading books and listening to podcasts like that as well. Jump
Uh,
is another good one. It's called Jump. I'm
okay.
blanking on the author, but I listened to that when I like initially had this vision and I was like, I just need to do something. And it literally is about just like taking the leap and just doing it.
I'll have to check that out. I love I haven't listened to I haven't listened to many podcasts for a while only because 5 years ago I turned my iPhone in and I have this now.
Oh my gosh, I love you. Good for you. I
Well,
thought
it's
that.
that is the biggest thing I miss is that it was very easy to whether I was in my car or I was going somewhere, it was just so easy to listen to podcasts and I really like them a lot.
Yeah.
So embarrassingly, if I want to listen to podcasts now, like my daughter goes to college 9 hours away. So if I'm driving to see her, I
Yeah,
download them on my laptop and then I put my laptop on the center console and I play them on that. Like that's how I have to listen now.
that's amazing.
Oz was so there's a few on there. It's been a long time, but some of I mean, Sarah Blakely was amazing. The lady that started Spanx. I mean,
Yeah,
she
hers is
did
good.
like her hustle and like going down there and putting them in those stores in Dallas and calling all of her friends, being like, "Go buy some Spanx." Like, I just love
Yeah,
stuff like that because it's like you have to be willing to just do whatever it takes. Like, just because you
yeah,
are doing something doesn't, and it's great, doesn't mean it's going to work unless you roll up your sleeves and you're willing to be a creative problem solver, which I'm hearing a lot.
yeah.
I liked the one of the ones I liked a lot. I need to listen to some of the ones you just mentioned. I haven't heard those. Yingling is a great one only because Yingling is the largest brewery in the country. It's only on the East Coast.
Oh,
The largest American owned because all the other ones were bought up by foreign companies. So
yeah,
Yingling is only on the East Coast. It's a fourth generation family owned business. And I remember Guy being like, dude, why don't you could sell this for billions of dollars, like, why don't
yeah,
you do that? And the guy's like, well, then what? Like, I
yeah,
have money. I love what I do. My kids are fifth generation. They're getting involved. Like, I drive 3 minutes to my office every day. That's something like, I think those stories are a lot cooler than like, oh, I built this and exited and made a lot of money. Like, yeah, but then what? Like,
yeah, exactly.
to your point, like, I don't ever want to run out of challenges and problems to solve. Like, you want
Hmm.
that. What kind of brings you life? But
Yeah,
so, well, this is a good podcast that you may want to, if there's actually
yeah,
Juan's been on here, Dave Query's been on here, Peter Watts from Tiaco has been on here, Justin Cucci was on here recently. He's there in Denver. Like a lot of, we're lucky that we have a lot of customers out your way, so we've had an opportunity.
yeah. I just listened to, which one did I listen to? It was one of your recent ones. Let's see. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, I was like, okay, this is really good. Cause I mean, I was like, I don't know if you actually want me on this or if you're just being nice. So I was like, I'm going to give it a
No,
listen, see what it's all about. And I was so impressed. Um, yeah, you've done a great job. I mean, 600 episodes, that's insane. And you started it 15 years ago.
it's been a long time. Yeah,
You
it's
should
been
interview yourself sometime.
on some. I've never even listened to a single episode of my own podcast.
Yeah.
Our goal, if you look at like what's a great hospitality business, like a local independently owned hospitality business, they do three things really well consistently.
Hmm.
That's the common thread. Number one is they have, and you've articulated this, they have a very intentional menu, right? Like they're very
Yeah.
about what goes on the menu and why it's on there. And if it doesn't, like I'm talking about like the really good ones, like the ones that survive and endure and they become institutions. They're very, very thoughtful about that because they want to execute on the delivery of their product consistent
Right.
day in, day out. Like that's a must. Number one.
Hmm.
Number two is, they are just really, really good at making you feel welcome, right? So that's a
Yeah.
part of it is all that you articulated, which is like sometimes you don't even know why you like being in a place, but because the owners have thought so much about the ambience, the
Yeah.
flow, music, the smells, but they always, if you get all those things right, but you got crappy people who are
Yeah.
not present and intentional and thoughtful with the guest, it doesn't matter. Like, so
Hmm.
they always get that right. It's the customer service piece, the hospitality piece. And then the third thing that
Yeah.
they do is they're very mindful about giving back to their communities. And that might be time, it might be money, it might be resources. I always say that, great great hospitality people, they're almost like first responders because like anytime there's a like whether it's fires in LA or the floods in the North Carolina mountains we've had, or you pick a place where there's a natural disaster, or take COVID, all great hospitality people immediately went to how can I help people,
Yeah.
how can I
Yeah.
serve our community, right? And we've tried to build our whole foundation as a software company around intentional product every day, great customer service, and then how do we give back? Because we're not like limited to geography. So it's not that we want to just like focus time and energy around like Charlotte where I live or where we live. It's the whole restaurant community. Well, how do we do that? Well,
Yeah.
one thing we can do is we can give people a platform to share their stories so that we can create content that is both educational and inspiring to the people in our community, which is the world of hospitality. This is really great, like I said, because we don't normally get somebody on here until, you know, they're a customer and then I come across them somehow and then I'm like, oh, they have a cool play. You want to come on the podcast? Like,
Right.
this is a really unique opportunity and I guarantee you this is going to help a lot of people that are, and look, I always feel like if you listen to this podcast, you're either going to go, oh, heck yes, give me more. This is what I'm meant to do. And I can't wait to open my place and I love it and I'm learning.
Right.
You might go, you know what? I'm glad I'm listening to this because I don't know if like
Yeah, I don't know if this is for
really what I
me.
want to do. And that's a good thing
Yeah.
both ways, right? Like a lot of
Right.
restaurants don't make it and you go, well, why? Well, a lot of the time it's because people didn't really know what they were getting into. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a really good cook. I'm gonna, I make really good Italian food. Let me go start a restaurant. Like, please,
Yeah.
please do like save yourself.
Oh my
Like
gosh, the
a
due
lot of
diligence is such a big part of it. I mean, this stuff, it doesn't happen overnight and it shouldn't. And I think if it did happen overnight, people would be able to tell. Like, there's got to be a big sniff test. Yeah, I think the due diligence factor is a big, big part of it. And people just want it to come to life all of a sudden. And it's just not going to.
take
So,
your time, get the
yeah.
right people, be very careful with who you hire. That's beginning to get, it was almost impossible during COVID. Nobody was working. People are coming back. So you have options now, but be really mindful of who you hire because they are your brand. Like I believe so much in the people part of this and the culture part of this and like curating
Yeah.
people that are, as you said, like we're all doing this together and it's fun to have a great team, but like one bad team member can just like
Yeah.
down to like be so careful and thoughtful about your culture. I mean,
I
there's a
totally
million
agree.
lessons kind of learned over the years, but I've also learned too, and this is, we've written two books, Restaurant Owners Uncorked, which we published in 2010, and then we did a second Restaurant Owners Uncorked in 2017. I
That's
thought,
amazing.
well, it was just listening to, like, I was like, God, these are so good. Like, how else can we get this content out there? But you know what? I'll be honest. The first book, I thought, okay, I'm going to go find like five common things. Like you see so many of these books, right? Like do these three things and you'll be successful.
Yeah.
But I would not have been honest if I said these are the three things that everybody does or the five things, because what I found is that there is no formula. Like everybody would, like I would say, oh, everybody does this a certain way. There's my thread. Somebody else would do it the total opposite way and they'd be successful too. So I felt like I was being disgenuine if I went and kind of like cherry picked like these things.
Yeah.
That there aren't, there is no right way to go about this other
No,
than
absolutely not.
finding your strengths and then finding others that fill it and being, as you've said, being intentional, being humble, being self-aware and going,
Hmm.
here's the things I'm good at, like you've articulated, and then finding people that can fill in and just finding your way and doing it through trial and error. I mean, that's not an easy answer. And people typically want like, give me these three things, give me the playbook.
Right.
Book is like, just put your heart and work hard and
Yeah.
get people around you and just trial and error your way into figuring this thing out. And as you want it to be simple, it's not, it's hard, but
Yeah.
with it and you have the right intentions, you can figure it out.
Hmm. And I think that's what's so interesting. And that really is what brings so much character. Like, not every restaurant that you go to is going to be the same, not every coffee shop, not every hotel. And that's because so many people have different ideas on what makes something or successful. And I mean, that's the beautiful thing about it. And even like listening to these podcasts, like it's so interesting because you do listen to some CEOs that they just have like the utmost confidence. And Steve Madden's is really interesting because he's like, I hear people like that all the time. And I think that's so awesome if they just, are like, oh, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to do so well. But he's like, me, I think I'm going to fail and go out of business every other day. So I constantly am scared. And I feel like I have a little bit of that in me that I'm like, oh my gosh, people aren't going to like this. This is not going to be good. So like I have to be so intentional about making it awesome versus just assuming people are going to come. Because yeah, like maybe the overarching idea is that yes, it will be successful and it is a void that we're filling, and people can give me as much feedback as they want all day, but I can't then just like go to sleep and wake up when it's open and be like, oh, well, it's just, inherently going to be awesome. Like and I think there's such a difference that people can like, it really radiates throughout if you have just a general, you know, convenience store or something that's just filling a void that you can tell was just opened up willy-nilly just to be there and just to make money versus something that's like, oh my gosh, this is like feels like you're in somebody's home. And I think there's good and bad to both sides. But yeah, I mean, this for me is it's not just something where I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta open this up to make money. I am lucky enough that, from my brokerage career, I do have a little bit of flexibility that I can rely on, that I can be super intentional with this. And hopefully at the end of the day, that'll end up benefiting me. And if not, then we'll have to course correct and, figure out something else. But yeah, I think taking just advice from not even advice, but just listening to people's story has been so hugely helpful to me. And it kind of like makes you feel a little bit less crazy. One of my favorite phrases that I've heard is it's better to be a psychopath than to have no path. And I'm like, that is so me. Like I would so much rather be just a freaking crazy person and be absolutely delusional out of my head than just be sitting on my couch not doing anything and not bringing anything to life. And like, let's make a mistake along the way and figure it out. But yeah, that's what it's all about.
But I need to listen to Steve Madden. When I think there's a lot of
It's so
CEOs
good.
are very convincing. eh, You know, I I prefer reality. I have
Yeah.
anxiety. I have worries all the time. I mean, all the time,
Yeah.
and I'm perfectly happy to say that. Like, I don't mind that. I think people need to hear a little bit more of that because most people do. And
Hmm.
then they look at people, they're like, well, that person's just got it all figured out, and they seem to
Yeah.
radiate all this confidence, and it's like that's why people compare themselves and they feel like they're no, like anybody who's done anything, whether they're honest about it or not, most of them have laid awake at night worrying. They've had fears. They've had self doubt.
Yeah.
They've imposter syndrome. They've had all this stuff. But then the key is just going, okay, fine. I'm acknowledging that, but I'm still going to keep trying. And yes, having
Yeah.
that level of fear. I remember Dave Query, Big Red F out there in Boulder years ago. He said, I wake up every day and I think this could all go away tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
we have to get up every day and feel that way so that we're intentional and he's like, people walk down that he's on Pearl Street, right, with a few of his places. And he's like, well, if somebody's walking down the alley and we've been sloppy and we have lemon wedges, that aren't in the trash can that are laying on the ground, like people notice this stuff. Like those things
Yeah.
help me. Like it really matters every day. So I remember that
Yeah.
always stuck with me. I remember Keith Paul in Oklahoma City, great restaurant group there, telling me one time on this podcast, he said, I don't really do any advertising. He goes, I focus on what's happening inside our four walls. That's what we can control, and we can always control that. And if we have a limited amount of
Right.
things to focus on, like what matters is when somebody walks in that door, what happens.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
I think that's true. Like you can always control what's going on inside those four walls and what that experience is like. And even if you
Hmm.
miss, the sandwich isn't done right or whatever, like people give you second chances depending on how you handle that all the time.
Right. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And I would so much rather in that situation, like give away a free meal versus trying to hold back on $15 and, having somebody experience a bad situation and never wanting to come back and then telling their friends about it. And it's like, we've all been there where we've had Cherry Creek Grill is a restaurant out here, like Hillstone. Do you guys have Hillstone in North Carolina? They're a big
I don't.
restaurant group. They started as Houston's and then they're Hillstone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I always, we go there all the time. It's just consistently good. And it's not like overly creative. Again, it's not reinventing the wheel and giving you this crazy over the top Michelin star food, but it's consistent. And if you even say one thing to the waitress about like, oh shoot, I'm so sorry, my, steak was undercooked or overcooked or whatever, they right away are like, we will get you a whole new meal, we'll comp this. And I'm always like, oh my gosh, you do not have to do that. Like, can you just throw it on the grill for another 5 seconds or whatever? But
Yep.
and that sticks with you. Like that experience happened to me at Cherry Creek Grill 3 years ago, and I still remember it. And yeah, I mean, the customer service is there. And I think a big thing too, which like if you listen to the guy that started Raising Cane's, not trying to overcomplicate things. And
Yes.
I always say like not putting jam where jam shouldn't be. Like you don't need to make a breakfast sandwich so intense. You just need to we're going to have our menu is going to be very simplistic, but really well done with clean ingredients. And so we're going to have a bacon, egg, and cheese that's literally just a bacon, egg, and cheese on good bread. And that's it. And you can add whatever the heck else you want, but we don't need like the sprigs of, crazy lettuce and interesting sweet jam. Like just keep it simple. And that's what people will keep coming back to. Like there's a time and a place for those things, but yeah, I think simplicity is key.
Simplicity is key. In-N-Out Burger has shown that.
Yeah.
Raising Cane's, absolutely, no doubt about it. Well, wow, this is so much fun. I really appreciate you taking the time to do
Oh my
this.
gosh, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for considering me. I mean, I'm just like not really anything big now, so I appreciate you wanting to have me on. It really means a lot.
For sure. I mean, and we'll do it again after you get open, and we'll say, okay, like here we are, and here's like what have you learned, and what's happened since we
Yeah.
last talked, and how's it going?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
do you
that'll be
think?
so fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Will. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Dana. Appreciate you very much too, and enjoy the rest of your day. And we will stay in touch, and we'll get this posted
Okay.
here in the next couple of days. I'll let you know when it's up. And for those of you listening, we appreciate y'all. One thing I typically forget to ask people to do is if you have a chance, click the stars, give us a rating, make a comment. The more ratings we get, the more commentary we get, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts, the more those algorithms will put this kind of content in front of other people. So if you find this to be helpful and useful, just take a second to do that, and then more people will get this content in front of them. And this is obviously very valuable. So thank you all for listening. More episodes coming soon. What a cool first opportunity, nearly 600 episodes, and to be the first one that's pre-opening first times.
Oh my
Thank you.
gosh. Well, thank you. It's such an honor. It really means a lot.
All right, y'all. That is a wrap. See ya.